Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Fund&Grow channel. Today, we have a really special treat. I know you're used to seeing Zach every week here, and we thought we'd throw you a little curveball, but in the most positive way. So I have a wonderful woman here who has this amazing business model that's not really the traditional business model. And I love what you're doing, Yvonne. I love everything that's happening in your world. And I wanted to introduce this to our audience and give them some enlightenment of things that are probably holding them back. So give me just a quick high-level pitch of who you are and kind of what you're doing so that everybody understands. And then I've got some really good questions to ask for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Everybody, hello. My name is Yvonne Trost. I am a partner in our LimitlessYou company with Brad Chandler. And what we have done is we've realized in our own lives that there's so many things that are holding us back that we don't even know, right? About it's things that have been shaped in our early childhood. Even when you think you had a great childhood, there's some things that can like form in your mind that make you believe that certain things aren't available to you, right? Or that you're not enough to achieve something, or that you always have to try and like seek more and more success, more business success, buy more things like that. And once we unlocked our limiting beliefs, we thought, oh my gosh, we cannot keep this just for ourselves. We have to help as many people as we can. And so Brad and I changed our lives, changed our focus in our career, and we formed LimitlessYou so that we can help others unlock themselves as well.
That is awesome. And that hits home with us, with everybody that we deal with. Entrepreneurs don't understand some of the things that are even holding them back, or maybe they do, and they don't know how to get over it, right? They don't know how to get over that hump. So let's dive into a little bit on like, what do you think is the reason they have a hard time reaching those success points, or, getting to that success that they desire? What do you feel is a most common denominator there?
I would say, so I'm not an entrepreneur for life. I'm a recent entrepreneur, but I've worked with several now, and Brad has been an entrepreneur all his life. And so the more I'm learning about entrepreneurs, the more I see that they feel a need to be able to control their schedule, to be able to find financial freedom so they don't have to rely on anybody else, right? To be able to do what they want, when they want, how they want. And if that resonates with you, that can be a totally lovely, healthy thing. What we find most people when they feel like they can't get that success or it's never enough, it's because they're seeking some kind of validation to fill them up, right? There's some piece missing inside of them that they may or may not be aware of, right? But they're like, oh, well, if I make X million dollars, or if I launch this new business, or if I'm on this show, then I'll be enough. Then I'll feel happy with myself. Then I'll be, I've achieved something. And what they learn is it just becomes very hollow. So they just keep chasing and chasing and chasing, looking for that thing that's never enough. And all they have to do is like look inside and figure out, what is that broken piece in there? They may or may not know it, right? But once they can connect to their true authentic self, and they connect to what their true purpose is, like they actually like doing what they like to do, right? Their career, they're not just chasing it for money, right? Then it effortlessly flows. And instead of that game of chase, because what happens, Amanda, when you play chase? You have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Do people run towards you when you play
Never
chase?
Comes back. Never. Ever.
No, they run further. And so what we teach people is how to like connect within and then learn to be a magnet and to attract what they want, right? Because they're so sure they know what's going to fill them up. They know who they are.
It's funny because I don't know, and I didn't ask this ahead of time. So the founder of Fund&Grow and our CEO, Ari, is huge in the law of attraction and both the personal and the business world. And that's very aligned with what you're saying. It's about, centering that reality inside you and welcoming in and getting that attraction to the right pieces. So I love that because it's very much how Fund&Grow was built. It's how he has always kind of built the culture around it. from his own kind of awakening that happened, back when all of that was going on for him. And we have a video on YouTube about that, of like how he had this awakening and was introduced to law of attraction, and he quit his job and just completely rethought his life. And I don't know what initially triggered that, other than just being introduced to the law of attraction. But I feel like that doesn't happen organically usually. I think maybe it did for him. It just happened that way. But most entrepreneurs don't realize that, right? Or they have the entrepreneur spirit, but they're still working their 9 to 5 because they haven't been able to take the jump for probably a whole threshold of reasons. A lot of it's probably internal, though. It's like those stories we tell ourselves, and it becomes crazy.
Absolutely. And I love that, because that's exactly what I started to do, right?
Yeah.
I've known since I was in high school kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people, but I never thought it would be possible. You had to get a certain type of job, and you had to make certain kind of money, and you had to like pay for your kids, and you had to like do everything for your family. And then you thought like give. Like they always talked about the golden rule: give unto others as you would have them give unto you. Well, I've changed it to the platinum rule, because I've learned that first you have to give unto yourself as you want to be given unto, so that then you can give unto the others, right? Because if you're giving from an empty cup, you're not giving your best self.
Yeah.
So the only way to give your best self is, number one, to figure out who the heck that is, right? Because so much of our lives, we wear these masks, right? We try to look like this person or keep up with this person financially or whatever it is. We're so focused outside of ourselves, we don't know who we are.
Yeah.
And so I would love to hear Ari's story. Usually that type of change comes out of inspiration or desperation, right? Because you probably heard, I don't know if you have, I don't know if many of you have heard, but between ages of 0 to 10, so much of who you think you are, how you process your personality, is being formed in your subconscious mind, in the cerebellum, and the host of your subconscious. And then there's these automatic programs that get kicked off when anything else looks similar. It just fires them without your knowing.
Oh, yeah.
And by the time you're 35, 95% of what you do, say, believe, act is all happening from your subconscious mind. And so that's why it's really important, to your earlier question. That's why people can't get that business success. They can't have that lasting impact, because they're only operating with 5% of the game, right? With their conscious mind. And they might have the awareness, and they might think that they know what they want. But if they don't have the awareness of what's going on in their subconscious mind, and they can't start to master that subconscious mind, it's going to pull them around into directions that's not where they want to go, or not in their control.
It's funny because I just thought of self-sabotaging, right? So
Yes.
How much do you think is that one of the factors that's happening to people who don't even realize that they're even doing it, and they're sabotaging themselves?
Absolutely. The craziest thing, first of all, it's not anybody's fault. You weren't born this way. And it's not your fault, and you're doing it to yourself. You just don't know. Every problem you have, most likely, is your subconscious mind's solution. It's a solution to something that it fears is worse. And the things that it fears are stuff that either happened in the background of your story, right? In the past, or in the future, and it's just your imagination. Neither of which is real. The past is no longer real. The future is just an imagination, right? It's not real yet.
Right.
And going back to the law of attraction, every possibility is out in the quantum field. You will attract what you have aligned your heart, your conscious, and your subconscious mind to believing is what's already true for you.
Yeah.
And so that self-sabotage is not believing that what you want is possible, right? You have to believe as if it's already possible. And that's really, really hard to do if you have these limiting beliefs that are saying, no, who do you think you are? That's not happening. Or no, look out for that, right? We're born with only 2 fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. What happens in life, and it's innocent, like my parents were innocent. They did the best they could. People try and protect, because there's so much fear and judgment in the world. And so quite often what I'd say is, if like you feel like you're self-sabotaging, catch yourself if you're making a decision either based on fear or judgment, or not making a decision or not taking action based upon fear and judgment. Because if you can get rid of fear and judgment, then the self-sabotaging goes away.
I think everybody here probably who's listening has definitely heard something about mindset, and everything in life is about your mindset. And I think that this is going a little bit deeper than that, guys.
Yes.
But at the same time, your mindset has to be reset every single day. You have to wake up every single day making those decisions and believing in those things. So this is obviously deeper than that, but that's that first step, is believing in yourself, right? And that's true not just in business, that's true in just life, right? I mean, there's plenty of self-doubting and self-sabotaging and all of these things in personal, but that's probably, I'm guessing, where it comes from, right? So you got to fix that and figure that out. And a lot of people will say, well, I've done therapy, right? I've tried the therapy route. I've done this, group counseling, whatever. So tell us a little bit about why that route isn't working for them, because clearly they're still having those issues. They're still not getting that success.
Absolutely. And what I'd say is I'm eradicating all fear and judgment out of my life as much as possible. So I don't judge any of those programs. I think everybody does the best they can with what they have. Unfortunately, like some of the neuroscience that's happened has just happened in the past 20 years. And the programs, in order to get into the schools and get them accredited and all that stuff, there's so much red tape. So a lot of those therapists and those programs that you're talking about, they don't have the latest information, right? We learn more and more and more about the human being. Like you and I talking about before, they don't teach us the human being user manual in school.
No.
And it needs to be updated. Like we're the most advanced technology on the planet, but we don't fully understand it. There are people that are learning that, right? But it's not widespread knowledge. And so that's where Brad and I, we study underneath like the latest and greatest, like whether it's neuroscience or quantum physics or what's out there. Like we want to bring those things to our community and to our clients, right? And the reason like most programs don't work is because they're not working with the subconscious mind. Yeah. Or they're just going back and revisiting stuff that's happened, but they're not quite sure it's called memory reconsolidation. So you have to go back to the memories. You have to understand what meaning you innocently gave them. You have to understand that that is untrue. And then you have to reconsolidate that in your brain so that it doesn't keep calling that old faulty program with the viruses. So awareness is just the first step. So we say there's 3 steps in our program. Realize, both with your conscious and your subconscious mind. Recode, right? You have to recode. You have to do that memory reconsolidation. You have to give yourself the new meanings, the real meanings of who you are and what you want. And then you have to take action. And that's the 3rd step, rewrite. So realize, recode, rewrite. And that's really hard to do on your own if you don't have a guide. And there just aren't that many guides out there that are trying, or not trying, but that have all the information that they need, right? To be that guide. So I always say like, Brad and I are like the subconscious safari guides, right? Like you want to go into a jungle by yourself if you didn't know anything about the jungle, right?
No.
Or if you did, you might not make it out, or you might turn around and run. So we don't give people the answers because that won't work.
Right.
We have to guide them, right? We have to guide your mind to the place, to the time, to the events that shape those beliefs that you may or may not be aware of. Some of our community members, they remember the things, but they didn't make the connection to today. Like that was me. Like I knew all those things, had no idea how it was driving my behavior.
Yeah.
Had no idea that it was a solution. I thought it was a problem.
Yeah, it's aligning those things together.
Yeah. So whether you have anxiety, a racing mind, fear, any of those things, relationship problems, it's not about anything that's going on outside of you. Not even the relationship with the other person. It's about the relationship you have with yourself. It all starts there. We're just not necessarily taught that. We need those aha moments. And sometimes you need somebody to shine a light and to guide you in and out and around that jungle. Right? And then it's like an amazing safari. Then it's no longer scary. Yeah. And it's fascinating and exciting. there's such potential. That's why we changed our name to LimitlessYou. We believe everybody is limitless. And we just got to keep showing each other that we are limitless and supporting, that you might kind of go like this a little bit, and that's okay. But when you go to the root and you do the recoding and the memory consolidation, it's fast. It doesn't take years. It can take hours. And then it's about taking action. Like you said, it's that waking up every day. Yeah. And it's not just positive affirmations. No. It's a new way of living with an understanding of yourself that you've never had before.
It's like when someone goes on a fitness journey, right? If you're truly going to transform your physical body, it's a commitment every day, right? So it's the same thing, except for you're actually being able to help the inside, not just the external part of your body. And I know we've shared some stories privately, and I will say to anyone listening, everybody has a story, right? So everybody has some type of something that molded how they're making their decisions and what paths they're going on and where they think their limits are, right? Because we all believe, until we can get to that point, we all believe we have limits. And I circle back to, I think my awakening moment, and I'm only going to share briefly, but my awakening moment was actually with my daughter, in that I realized some things happened in her early teenage life, where she was remembering things from when she was like 7, but she was filling the gaps with untrue. They were not true. Like, it was things that she didn't really know happened. So her brain was filling it.
Yes.
And that story made it so much worse. And so as a parent, that's not an easy thing to navigate. But I think it actually made me realize this is happening to me too. And I'm doing a similar pattern. And so I'm like, okay, so I've got to help her because she's, 15 years old. She's got to figure this out. And so I had to be able to be okay with her actually knowing the true full story and letting her take the time to program herself to know that truth. And I will say that in doing that, the blossoming she's had since then is like just tenfold. She's, it was right before high school was starting. It was that crazy age, especially for a female. And I think that had I not done that, she would definitely have brought a huge chunk of that into adult life. And I'm so thankful that I had that moment. But I think that's what made me realize it myself too, is realizing that those events that happened to her also created things for me, even though I was an adult. So I don't think it's just the childhood, right? It's all the way up until probably that 35 mark. I think that's probably accurate. I think you've probably done some research on that. And I think that's really because some of that happened in my early 20s or my mid 20s. And so I didn't realize that was molding things even into that point. So, so it's just crazy. And talking to you, I think I actually finally connected that dot. I didn't know what to call it, right? I didn't know what that was. And I'm sure I have plenty of growth left to go, but I didn't know that until that call with you. So, it was great. And I think everybody listening probably either has had a moment or right now is like, wait, maybe there's that thing. So, what inspired you to create a program that's opening this world up? Because it's definitely unique that other people are not doing, and it's amazing to see its growth and what's going on. So I'd love to hear what inspired you. And I know maybe not speak for Brad, but kind of what inspired him, if you know some of those pieces.
Absolutely. So our stories on the surface look very different, but at the core, they're the same. And we find that they're the same for so many in our community and so many from our teachers. It's this feeling of I'm not enough. That's what it all really comes down to, right? For Brad, he grew up in a bit of a tumultuous environment where his parents divorced, and he had some trauma there that I would let him speak to, but he grew up feeling he wasn't enough. He grew up feeling that I might not have a home because when the parents separated, he thought that might be something for him. And so he thought that's never going to happen to me. And that's why he went off and he did, the real estate business, right? He owned a lot of homes. So he'd never be homeless, right?
Variety.
But he's always seeking, if I can make more money, then I'll be enough. But it led to 2 divorces. It led to a lot of lost money and business mistakes because he was being driven from ego. And he'll tell you that. And if anybody's listening, listens to our How to Be Happier podcast, you've heard it. It's How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. For me, I grew up thinking I had a normal childhood, like it was fine, right? But I was always being compared to others, right? I got, in my mind, to your point of like what you remember, what you don't remember, I thought I got grounded if I didn't get straight A's. I just had a conversation with my mother last week. She's like, I just strongly encouraged you to focus on your grades instead of going out, right? I thought I always had to do it on my own because I was a middle child and they weren't back where I came from. You didn't like play with your kids. You managed your kids, right? You made sure they were safe. They would go and they get a career that would make money, right? It was work for a reason. You're not supposed to enjoy it. It's just supposed to pay the bills, right? And so I went off to business school, even though I had like more of a creative, a human engaging core, right? Like you take those tests and it's like, I should have been a social worker, it said, but I'm like, oh, ramen noodles and college debt would quickly dwindle my passion. And my parents said I need to go into business. So I did. And then, I was late in getting married and having a family. So then I rushed into that, right? And I needed to get promotion and need to get all this money, right? And it's never like, I was never asking, well, like, what do I truly want? Right? What they asked you maybe in kindergarten, what you wanted to be when you grew up. And then after that, you're just told what you should be wanting or what you should be doing. Right? And so for me, Brad went through 2 divorces. I went through 1 divorce and I found yoga and meditation. And that's where my journey started. And then I started manifesting. Right? And then slowly, I believe I manifested Brad into my life. And at that time, he was getting his certification in hypnosis. So a part of our program leverages hypnosis. There's several ways to get to your subconscious mind. Hypnosis happens to be one of the best. And so I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And so then I went and I got my certification, right? And then I'm like, I thought I was going to do, like you said, like I'm going to do the side hustle. Well, I got the main hustle, but then you're spreading yourself too thin, everybody. And Ari's probably told your community, if you don't make space, those things that you want can't come in. So if you want to do your side gig full-time, you got to make space. Because if you got a full-time job and you got the side gig and you got the family, your health's probably going. You're not present or attuning to your family. You're not attuning to your own needs. And then you're not going to operate as your best self. And then that goes back to what we started. Why you can't get that business success, which I also would say, what does success mean to you? Not what's the definition that other people have given you. Not what is the dollar number. What does success mean to you? And there's a lovely free resource online. It's not mine. The number 7levelsdeep.com. You go and say, what do you want? And then you ask yourself that 6 more times. And then you start to get to kind of that thing that might be buried in your subconscious of what's really important to you and what's really driving everything that you do. It'll be insightful. But that's I think, what I would say is our story and what's inspired us is like, it's like, oh my God, this wasn't rocket science. It's all right there inside of us. And it's very accessible. You just need a guide. So how can we not give this to other people? And your point about awakening, once you wake up, it's really hard to go back to, or to want to go back to sleep. And so once we started waking up and gaining that awareness, you then get connected to your purpose. And ours is to help others become their limitless selves so we all can create this lovely community of connected individuals, like living their purpose, which is going to just make it better for everybody, right? We couldn't turn back.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing once you have that moment. And you're right, getting it to turn backwards, not only is it not a desire, I feel like I'd have to literally be unconscious to not do it. Like it's like one of those things that kind of goes round and round. So you said earlier about it not being a long process. So I think this is probably one of the reasons that it does set you apart, but how does your program work so fast? Like giving just, basic level of like, what exactly do you do to make it where it's not this long, drawn out journey and they can't get results quicker?
The main thing is we're just going to the root of the problem. We have a 5-week program, right? And I think there's critical elements in that realize, recode, and rewrite is number one, we want to make sure you have a solid foundation. Like we combine Western with Eastern, medicine science, like new neuroscience, is just proving out what ancient Eastern wisdom has told us for thousands of years. And so we make sure that people understand a little bit about that human being user manual, right? How the mind, body, spirit connection works. Because in our society and in Western society, in most places, it's like they try and like chop us up and compartmentalize us, but you can't do that, right? And so the first thing is we set that solid foundation, because once we take people into that subconscious safari, they're going to unlock themselves from their emotional prison. And I don't want a recidivism rate to be high. I don't ever want them to go back, right? And so the reason why people go back to prison is because they don't have a supporting structure and they don't know what to do, right? So we make sure not only do you have that foundational knowledge, we get to the root of it very quickly through hypnosis, right? We help you rewrite your own memories, not tell you, right? We guide you and we do the memory consolidation. And then we have that supportive community. I call it my tribe. We meet every single week, right? And we're celebrating. You have to celebrate even the small things, right? Because your subconscious mind only wants to keep you alive. But the problem is it doesn't care if you're happy or sad. So if you've been miserable or unsuccessful, it doesn't care. It's like, you're alive. So let's keep things like this. I'm risk averse. My subconscious mind is risk averse. No change, right? So you need to celebrate and say, oh no, I'm in charge, not you. I'm going to celebrate those changes, big or small. I have a supportive community that's going to help me through any little ups and downs, right? That's why it works so fast. So we have people that have, every single challenge you can think of so far. In my mind, big T trauma, little T trauma, focused on business, and they come out of it. That's the other thing. It's like, you might come in with one wish. We always say, what's your magic wand wish? What's your wish? You come in with a wish, and then you end up getting so many more granted that you didn't even plan on. I've had so many people come in with a business wish. I want to unblock myself from thinking that I can't get this business success. And then they come out of it, and not only do they then they're like, their relationships are better just because they're operating differently as their true authentic selves. It gives permission for their kids to do the same. And so like you're talking about your daughter earlier, like you don't even have to, I was taught, control your children. You don't control them. You attune to them and you live your authentic self and you live by example. Because anybody that has kids, they're not going to do what you say. They're going to do what you do. And it might not be in the moment. It might not be today, but guaranteed they're watching and they're learning by what you're doing. So it's actually selfish, Amanda, not to be selfish.
It's true.
Right?
I agree.
Do you want your kids to not live their full potential? Do you want them to be miserable? Do you want to just marry whoever's coming along because it's time and they're there? Like, we don't want that for our children. So that goes back to my platinum rule. Do unto yourself as you want your children to be done unto.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to be watching.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know who else is watching that might be something that people aren't thinking about listening is your employees. Your employees are watching.
Absolutely.
Your coworkers, no matter what level you're at, like everyone's is watching. And like anything else, the old saying of do what I say, but not what I do type thing doesn't work, right? Mm-hmm. Because the human mind doesn't work that way.
Right.
So I'm very fortunate that I have a mentor and a leader in Ari in the law of attraction. But I think that's kind of the point is like you're attracting the things, right? Yes. So I always, my husband thought I was crazy at first, but now I think he understands. But like when my kids elevate, especially the little ones, when they elevate, I go down. I bring myself down. I calm my tone down. I'll even squat down, like so that I'm not like overpowering them. And I found that just doing that tends to get them to come down a little bit. It may not completely get rid of everything that's happening in that moment, but if I elevate, it's going to make it worse because then they're just mimicking what I'm doing at that point. So if I just bring myself down, then I'm attracting that calmer, reaction from them. And I think that's kind of dwindling it down, but that's like the basics of it, right?
It's huge. We're all energy. It's proven, right? And so not only are they watching, like skin is overrated. It really is. Like even like distance is overrated. Like we feel like, oh, we keep it inside. We are all energy and we're all connected. It's not Yvonneism. You can Google it, right? You can chat GPT it, right? It's proven science now. And so you you attract what you are.
Yeah, that's the core of it.
And energy is so important. So if you want unconditional love, love unconditionally. If you want generosity, be generous. If you want a calm, peaceful environment, you need to be calm and peaceful, right? And this goes back to like, in the beginning, we talked about people are always seeking things outside of themselves because that's what we're taught. Again, it's not your fault. This is the pot calling the kettle black, people. Like, I have to practice this daily too. So you can't say that that person made me mad or that my child made me yell. I used to do that all the time. You're making me yell. No, they actually can't, right? We give away our power and we give away our choice. And we give away our choice of the energy that we want. And so we have to take back choice. And that goes back to like this mindset mastery. It's beyond positive affirmations. It is scientific. It is spiritual. And don't take my word for it. Test it out. Test it out, right? And if it doesn't work for you, test something else out. But listen, open your mind and start to like listen to your own intuition and ask myself, like anytime I'm like, am I making this out of fear or judgment of myself or others? Is this my idea or is this an idea that I've been conditioned to believe is mine?
It's so powerful right there. That's, I don't think people even, as we've said, like don't even realize they're doing it in that way. So it's pretty crazy. And I was going to ask you, but you kind of answered it. I'm guessing that the way that you judge the success or measure the success of your program is by actually defining the success of each person, because I'm assuming it looks different for everybody, right? So my measurement of success is different than yours. And so I'm assuming it's when you're achieving those success points that matters. But I'd love to ask, like, that was kind of my question, is how you're measuring that success of your program.
Yeah. So it's qualitative and quantitative, right? So everybody gets a magic wand wish. So we're rating like, is that magic wand wish coming true? Is your relationship better? Is your business better? Is your self-confidence better? Is your anxiety less? Like whatever it happens to be, right? And so I just tell everybody, like, we also measure it this way because it's all about self-love. And that term is like widely spread and sometimes overused. And people are like, that's woo-woo or that's too feminine. Well, if you want lasting success that makes you happy, you have to understand self-love. And we have a great tool. It's free. If you go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz, it's just 12 questions. It's 3 minutes. It applies to your business, to your life, to way of interacting with yourself and others. And people will get their self-love quiz score. And they'll get in and they'll start to be like, oh, that's why I do that, right? We give free information around, like after you submit it, you'll get it in an email. But for the people that join our community, we track that. Each of those questions, how you relate to yourself, how you relate to others, there's 12. They're simple but profound. So we track, is your magic wish coming true? And how are you doing with your self-love?
All right. So we talked about the success and how it's different for everybody. So I'd love to hear of, hopefully, kind of thrown out there, but of a client story that maybe is your favorite. Maybe it's the first one. Like, what is a successful client story you could share?
Can I share more than one if I'm quick? I have extra smile grins just from like thinking of all the amazing success stories that my clients and Brad, we share, our community are having. We've had somebody that was on the brink of divorce and had a very tumultuous business that came in and went through our program. He's one of our OGs. And he's like, you guys never even talked to my wife, but you saved my marriage. Right?
Love it.
Because again, it's what we said. It's never the relationship you have with somebody else. It's with who you have with yourself. And by improving that, naturally, everything else, happens. I've had clients who have had, they didn't even come, this wasn't even their magic wish, but they had physical pain, like their emotional trauma manifested as physical pain. It disappeared. And they went from not thinking they're enough, right? And having physical pain and troubled relationships to they're like, oh, no, I'm enough. And I'm going to go start my own business. And their relationship, which they thought was always amazing, they're like, I don't think it could even become more amazing, right? So It's like relationship, the confidence to start a new business, sleep, right? People that can't sleep have, because they're racing mind.
Yeah.
People that have described themselves as chronically anxious, like they've been diagnosed chronically anxious.
Right.
And then they're like, well, not only do I like, even this is like less than 5 weeks, people, like this is less than 5 weeks and they've been chronically anxious their whole life. And they're like, not only do I have less anxiety, when something comes up, I actually know how to handle it. Right?
Well, I figured out the root.
Yes. So we don't want, it's an interesting business model. I don't know if I'd recommend it to other people, but we don't want you to keep coming back, right? For years and years and years, solving the same problem. We want you to like come back and tackle the next one or stay in our community. But what our goal is to give you everything that you need. The knowledge, the healthy coping skills, right? The rewiring, because life is real. I mean, we're not saying life's going to be perfect, right? But we actually believe what it might sound cliche, but that everything happens for you, not to you. So we help people see that. And then we give them the tools they need. So after our 5-week program, they have everything that they need. They needed inside of them, but now they have the tools to like bring that out and to live their life as their fullest potential, to get their greatest joy.
Right.
So that's for me, like the biggest thing when I hear somebody say like, oh, the same thing happened. Like maybe guys, you're like, well, you can recode me, but I can't get out of this situation that I'm in. Right. Like you and I've talked about, like I was in a bad marriage. It doesn't happen overnight that you can get out of a bad marriage. Right. Or your children take time, or maybe you have a lot of debt in your business, or maybe you're trying to start up a new business and you're like, well, I can't change those things. What I'm saying is that once you have the control inside and you can change that, like you can't help but change how those things impact you. They don't have the same power over you anymore. And back to your law of attraction, Amanda, things naturally start changing, but they change in flow versus effort.
Yeah.
Right? So if you feel like, oh my God, I'm on this hamster wheel and I'm scared the whole time I'm running, but I'm going to keep running because I've been taught perseverance and I'm going to shout out positive affirmations as I'm running. Yeah. And that's not working for you. There's a reason, right? So what we're talking about is a way to like get off the hamster wheel, get connected. Then we lay out your life plan, right? We do personal like life transformation strategies for people. It could be a big change. It could be a small change. But we help guide them towards like, what are your dreams? What are your core values? Most of the time, including myself, my old self, I hadn't thought about it too much. I thought about the things that I didn't want. I was putting all my energy into protecting myself and my family from those.
Yep.
So we help people shift their energy to putting it into what they do want. So that's what we attract out of the quantum field.
And I think that anybody who has, but they feel like they have a mountain, right? They feel like they can't get out of that situation. I would say that I can feel that. I know that feeling myself, but I think it's about when you do this and you have this more than a mindset, but mindset's obviously one of the key factors there. But once you do it, you're able to start seeing those solutions. You're seeing things in a different way. You're attracting different people. And some of those people are key to that success. So it may feel like a lot, and you might be listening and be like, there's no way this is going to help me. But it can help you in ways that you're not even thinking, that then open up the door to that next piece and that next piece. And you said, it might not be the best business model, but I also want to recognize that we're not perfect. So there's going to be a moment, maybe 10 years from now, where you step outside and you're like, I'm right back in that same place and I need a refresher. I need to go back and I need to recenter myself. And that's the same thing with following law of attraction. You have to do it every day, but sometimes you forget, or something happens, and we're human. So the negative gets let in and it takes a minute to recoup. So, I want everybody listening to know that, you're not going to solve everything in a day. That's not at all what anyone can tell you. But if you start those steps, it's like anything else. Once you take that first step, the second one gets easier and the third one gets easier, and it just keeps compounding like that.
Absolutely. So. And we call ourselves happiness coaches, right? So we have the 5-week program, But to your point, once people are through that, I love for them to stay in our community. We meet weekly, but then also, we're on offer as happiness coaches once people have gone through that initial program. So just like you have like a physical trainer, or you have a doctor, or you have a business coach, or even there's a lot of people that have mindset coaches, it's a little bit different, right? Because we understand how the subconscious mind works.
Right.
And so that whether you work with Brad and I or somebody else, ask, what do they know about your subconscious mind? Right? Ask, how do you help me make lasting change with my subconscious mind involved? Like that's the key.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you don't even know it's sitting there, how can you address it? How can you overcome it? How can you turn it into that positive energy? So I love all of it. You know that I've already had that conversation. I was excited to share it with our outreach and everyone, and knowing that this is a thing, right? So if this is resonating with you and you're sitting here going, God, all right, so what do I do? What do I do? So what do we do now? If we're listening to this video and we're like, all right, I want to find this out. What do they do? What's their next step in your world?
What I would say the easiest step, like I mentioned before, just a 3-minute step. Go to unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz. So our company name is LimitlessYou, but we want to help you unlock. So our website is unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz. Answer that quiz like very thoughtfully, not what you want the answer to be.
Yeah.
Right. Does anybody ever do that? Game it. Your subconscious might be doing that. Like, so take a minute where you're not like doing it while you're doing 5 million other things, right? Dedicate 3 minutes uninterrupted, answer the questions, and start thinking about what we're sending you, right? And if you're like, oh my God, I need this, I want to get started right away, same thing. unlocklimitlessyou.com/call. They can book a call with me. We'll talk about what challenges or what mountains. Like, it doesn't even have to, like, that's why I said Limitless You. Like, you don't have to have problems. You can just have goals that you want a little support, figuring out, how do I reach, or why can't I get over this one, summit? What is going on? We'll figure that out and we'll talk about it. And we'll take you through it, and we'll connect you to all that power that you have within you already. You just don't have access to it yet.
I love that you're calling it unlock, because that's what it is, right? Is figuring out where's the key? How do I get in there, right?
Yeah. So I'm not fixing anybody. I'm just unlocking the real you. That's it.
You're going to fix yourself through processes, through different, things like that. Everyone has the ability to fix themselves. They just need the right tools, the right support. I call my tribe as well, for multiple things, for helping with the kids and all of that. So for everyone watching, don't worry if you didn't write down the link quick enough. We are going to put it in the description below. We're going to make sure you have those links, and really take a minute and just do the quiz. Right, it doesn't hurt you. Maybe to help you at least understand a couple of things just by taking that quiz. And I welcome anybody to comment in the chats. We'll make sure that if anyone has any additional questions, we get them over. But this has been great. I'm so excited to share this with everybody. And I thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. I always enjoy our conversations. And I hope everybody out there has gotten value from it. And again, just start to give yourself compassion and curiosity. So I'll just leave you with a little life hack. I would say E=mc². It's a different type of energy than Einstein thought about, but actually he might have been onto something. We just don't know. Mindful thinking raised to the power of compassion and curiosity. Mindful thinking, not doing 20 million things, like be mindful, raised to the power of compassion and curiosity, and realize there's just a young child in you, right? Your subconscious mind isn't your current age. It's running programs from a very young age. And the person that you might be in conflict with, guess what? Same thing. They're also a human being. So pause, have compassion for yourself and everyone around you, right? Everybody is running off those limiting programs, and then get curious. Get curious. Don't blame and don't shift to fear and judgment. Ask yourself why. Get curious. And if you need help, we're always here to support you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. And we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.